Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Today in this video, guys, I'm honored to have Sam. He is from, well, actually, he was a graduate over at UCLA, and he also started Everpedia, where now he is working on Frax. Sam, what can you tell us about yourself? Why did you get into crypto?
Hey, thanks for having me, Drake. What's up, guys? I actually got into crypto now, almost 9 years ago in 2013. When I was at UCLA, I started mining proof of work altcoins like Dogecoin, mining some Bitcoin, and it was actually a really interesting time in crypto. It was way before Ethereum and all this stuff. And then, like you said, after graduating, I started Everpedia, and that's kind of like the decentralized version of Wikipedia. And then that's doing really well. Token is actually on multiple chains as well. There's Frax pairs, and then after Everpedia in 2019, I started Frax Finance, which is the first fractional algorithmic stablecoin. So that's why we call it Frax. Stands for fractional algorithmic, which means there's collateral, but then there's also unbacked supply that changes its supply to meet demand to keep price stability. So it was the first idea of a stablecoin that was like the protocol has collateral, but also it has some unbacked amount. So a lot of people might find that similar to Terra and Luna, because the UST stablecoin does not have collateral in its protocol. It's actually like a 0% collateralized stablecoin, but it trades against its governance token Luna, and it changes its supply and demand to meet the dollar peg, basically, right? Frax is like that, but only like a piece of the supply behaves in that way, and then like another piece of the supply is just collateralized. There's just backing, so that there's always like a very safe kind of confidence to it. So a lot of stable coins kind of have become kind of inspired or interested in this design. I think Do Kwon, the founder of Terra as well, has said, one of the things maybe the Terra protocol should have is some collateral backing it, like on chain, like Bitcoin and ETH and stuff. And that's really cool to see. I love Do and all the Terra community. So we're actually doing some cool stuff with them as well. So love to talk about that in the video. Yeah.
Good. We'd love to hear about it. So what's the reason you started Frax? I mean, you're working with Everpedia. I mean, did you just want to graduate from, well, I guess you're still working on it, but why did you start up Frax? What did you see was a need for that?
Yeah, so the first idea with Frax kind of started in 2019. So this was a really long time. This was like the bear market of the kind of ICO era-ish time. So if a lot of people recall back then, this was before DeFi was actually like a term, and this was after a lot of the original kind of ICOs and stuff hadn't been doing really well. One of the main things I thought about was that stable coins and stable units of account were going to be really big. And one of the things that I started thinking about is, why isn't any of the algorithmic style stable coins taking off? And so for people that don't know, stablecoins are usually classified into 3 separate categories. And the categories are fiat-backed, like Tether and USDC, which they guarantee or like say they guarantee redemption to fiat cash in a bank account, right? So that's called a fiat coin, basically. And then there's the over collateralized stable coins like DAI and also like MIM from the Abracadabra protocol, which say, hey, everything we have is on chain. It's not fiat in a bank account, but every one stable coin is backed by over $1 worth of collateral, because crypto is volatile, right? So you need to have a little bit above $1 of collateral to make sure it doesn't ever, go below a dollar. And if it does, you sell the collateral for the stable coin. Then there's the third type, which is like totally algorithmic, which means there is no collateral. It's not, you can't redeem it and stuff. But if the price is below the peg, then the protocol buys back the stablecoin from the open market and stabilizes the price, right? Supply and demand. If there's not enough demand for your stablecoin out in the open market, one of the ways to stabilize the price rather than guarantee redemption is if the protocol just buys back the stablecoin from the open market, right? Because now there's less stablecoins in the open market, and it should meet demand at the price peg. And so that's kind of the three types. And so we thought of, why isn't there anyone combining the two kind of decentralized types of stablecoin, collateral on chain and algorithmic? That should give a lot of advantages to how quickly you can scale, how fast and easy it is to kind of deploy on multiple chains, because you can mint some stablecoins, and as long as there's like a bridge back to keep the peg tight and change the supply, you don't have to rebuild the entire protocol on every chain, for example, right? And we came up with Frax. We launched in December 2020. So it's actually exactly about like a year and like 12 days that it's launched. And since then, Frax has become one of the largest stablecoins in the entire world. It has about 1.8 billion supply. It's one of, I think, 6 or 7 stablecoins over a billion in supply. And yeah, I think the biggest on-chain stablecoins right now are like DAI, MIM, Terra, and Frax. It's us for the big 4 on-chain stablecoins, basically. Obviously, there's the fiat coins, Tether and USDC, but it's been a really, really great year. And one of the things is that basically we're coming up with a new stablecoin, an airdrop, and would love to talk about that as well. And thank you, Frax Master. I see you there.
No, I think he thanks you.
I have to thank him for the beard balm. Yeah, you could feel free to send it to me. I'll try it on, and I'll let you know how it goes.
So, okay, so for someone who doesn't really trust or understand stablecoins, by the way, I want to mention this as well. For anyone viewing, Frax is actually one of the best. It holds its peg the best out of every single stablecoin. You can look at the charts on CoinGecko. It is a little incorrect on the APIs. Actually, the lowest Frax has ever gone. What was that? 98 cents?
I think it was like 99.05 or 99.1. So yeah, one thing I forgot to say is like Frax is an algorithmic stablecoin, but we've never broken our peg a single time in the entire time we're launched. And so this actually makes us really proud, because no other algo stablecoin can directly say that. We define the peg as 1 cent or 1% on each side. So like never above $1.01 or below 99.000 cents. The reason, just so it's clear, actually, the reason like CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko a lot of the times report for not just Frax, but like, USDC and other things, pretty kind of volatile pricing, is that they look at like a lot of thin pairs on even centralized exchanges, which is fine. Like that, you could argue that is also part of the price. But for Frax, since it's entirely decentralized on chain, we look at from a protocol perspective the price on Curve, Uniswap, Sushi, these dexes that have the on-chain price, and that's where Frax has like 90+% of its liquidity and trading, and on there it's never broken its peg. So just a full caveat, that's how we define the peg.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. So I guess the next question would be like, explain Frax to a 5-year-old. I know you kind of explained similar to Luna, but some people may not understand like the burning mechanism and how that would simply work. Because I have people ask me all the time, like, stablecoins. Oh, if I buy crypto, I'm going to buy Bitcoin. And if it's a stablecoin, I'm still taking on the crypto risk. Why would I buy a stablecoin if the risk is only the downside and not even the upside? Because it's a stablecoin. Kind of explain it to a child who doesn't really understand.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I guess the main thing to say is if you're holding a stable coin in crypto, you're getting something out of it, and then you're also taking some risk, right? So if you're holding, for example, Tether on chain, right, what you're getting is the stability of it being $1 during all the volatile times that you could hold anything else. You're taking the risk of regulatory risk, or maybe there's probably no reason for them to blacklist your account, but like the ability for them to have that is maybe concerning for some people. But Tether can blacklist because it's not fully decentralized stablecoin. So those are the risks, right? For like Frax, for example, the risk you're taking is part a large part of the supply is fully backed by collateral. You can just see that on chain. Some part of it is not. So like, technically, to be candid and fair, if 100% of people holding the Frax stablecoin came right now and said, I want collateral to redeem Frax, there wouldn't be enough for about 16% of them. So like probably right now about like 240 million Frax is unbacked, but about 1.6 billion Frax is backed. So like that's a pretty good like ratio. It's about 84% in terms of a collateral ratio. But that's the risk. But the things you get out of it, for example, are Frax is one of the most multi-chain stablecoins. You can like bridge it to like all of these other places. It's decentralized. There's no blacklist. There's nothing we can do in terms of like we can't control the thing. And so the main thing I would tell someone is if you're holding a stable coin, you're getting something out, which is stability, and then you're taking certain risks, which is the idiosyncratic rules of like that stablecoin protocol.
Right. Some people also underestimate the type of collateral as well. I want to talk about that or ask that question to you. But I know,
I see someone saying, I see someone saying, what is the collateral?
Yeah, that's important.
The collateral is Curve LP tokens, ETH, very, very small amount of USDC directly. So some people have said, okay, why do you guys hold another kind of stable coin? We have about 5% of the collateral as USDC. Let's see what else. There's CVX tokens, Convex, which is a pretty huge protocol. We own about like $51 million worth of Convex from the protocol, which actually helps Frax be kind of a dominant force in like the Curve ecosystem. Let's see off the top of my head what else. There's a lot. In fact, you can kind of see that in app.frax.finance/AMOs, which is like the stats page for what's going on with the protocol and the other AMO contracts. I type it out, but I actually don't know if I can.
Let me see. I'll see Frax. See if I can pull it up. Frax Finance.
But yeah, so that's the answer. When Aurora Chain, sir? Well, sir, we actually have a small but growing liquidity on Rose. But we're actually working on hopefully a native Frax implementation on Aurora, so that there's like a native Frax token, so that when people either bridge or not, they can still access Frax ecosystem stuff on Aurora. They don't have to only wrap their Frax. So I would say that maybe in the next couple weeks. So yeah.
So I think this one, the one I just popped up. So this one, correct? Okay.
That's the one.
All right. Yeah. So that way you can see like the breakdown there and kind of see what's inside the vaults. Appreciate the super chat, Justin. So just wanted to say thank you to that. But something important that people underestimate with the vaults is like, for example, Abracadabra. They use a lot of yield-bearing assets. But I mean, that's great and all. We understand that. But the problem when you take on risk upon more risk is that the collateral you're using has a chance of, I guess you can say, no, I wouldn't say hack, but maybe contract risk, or you're taking on smart contract risk. I mean, I want to say let's use the example of Grim Finance. I don't know if you heard about that or not.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, it's an auto compounding vault, and it was additional smart contract risk, right? And the vault was hacked, and the hacker basically just sold all of the tokens, which caused the token price to cascade. So it wasn't necessarily with the collateral itself, but it still did have an effect on the collateral. If that was to happen in a system like Frax Finance, where a portion of the collateral, let's say, for example, one of the Curve AMO tokens, is that going to be like a issue on the back end, or is that just...
So one of the good things about Frax is like none of the collateral is like through leverage lending, other than lending AMO. So actually some Frax is minted into lending pools, but it's much less than like a lot of the supply of DAI and MIM and stuff like that. Right now there's probably about 100 million to 200 million Frax that's directly minted into lending markets and borrowed, which is the kind of leverage that you're talking about. Over collateralized, you take stable coins out. We actually try to do things in a really safe way. When we deploy new AMOs and stuff for the protocol, and then we look at how everything is growing, we try to make sure that there's not like too much of one type of activity. If you think about it, money is three things, right? It's a store of value, unit of account, and medium of exchange, right? Store of value is actually really important. Stable coins that have good yield, right? Frax has one of the best yields on Curve and Convex and a bunch of other places. People can hold Frax and then get yield on it, right? Essentially a quasi savings account, so to speak, right? And crypto staking is like the same thing as essentially a savings account, right? So Frax is really good as a store of value in terms of a stable coin compared to other ones. Unit of account is also important, because one thing that's important to note is unit of account actually is more about how much debt is denominated in your stablecoin. Because if people are indebted in a stablecoin, they have to pay it back in that unit, right? They have to pay back Frax. If you're in debt Frax, you can't pay back USDC. Even though they're both the same price, that's irrelevant. Your debt is denominated in Frax, so your unit accounting is done in Frax. So like that's actually a good thing to have some amount of leverage, lending, and debt in Frax, so that it's also a good unit of account as money. And then medium of exchange, I mean, that's obvious. That's why blockchain is going to take over everything. Things are much better mediums of exchange settled on blockchains rather than classical rails. So like all stable coins kind of get that property as like an A+. So one of the things we try to make sure with Frax is, compared to other stable coins, there's a healthy mixture of debt as well as lending and yield and savings and things like that. And so that's what's really important. Same thing with like the FPI. So I know there's going to be a lot of questions about the FPI airdrop and stablecoin. When we launch that, one of the first things we're going to try to make sure to do is that there's some high yield savings, staking, whatever you want to call that, with the protocol when it launches, because a stable coin is only as good as it is as a unit of account and store of value, right? And so FPI is going to be better than dollar stable coins from a perspective of store of value, but you also need some yield. So we're going to make sure all of those things are met as soon as possible.
Okay. So I want to talk one last thing about the collateral in the vault. I know you've made mentions about it, and I see you guys actually are graduating away from it. It looks like you are getting away from that crutch of USDC. Do you know when you plan on being fully out of USDC, or at least almost out of it?
Yeah, like 5% of our collateral is directly USDC. I think honestly we could get rid of that like today without it directly affecting anything. Now there's a more fundamental question here, which is like, you have a lot of Curve LP tokens, and a lot of Curve LP tokens are basically 3CRV, right? Which is what kind of the Curve ecosystem is based on. And when you go underlying on those, then those are like USDC and USDT underlying that. Yeah, it's an interesting question, because if you take that view, for example, MIM is not decentralized at all in terms of collateral, right? Because for example, MIM is entirely in a majority of stuff YVUSDC, which is like USDC interest bearing, Curve, leverage yield positions, right? Like it's like the 3CRV volts and things like that. So I think you get a really interesting situation here, is where it's like, if the question is, what does the protocol directly hold USDC? Basically, no. Right now, Frax does not in any way, other than around 5%, which we could get rid of, today, and I don't think anything would happen. If the question is more about when will indirect exposure to fiat coins lessen, I think we need something like the FPI for that, and like slowly getting there, because if that's the question, no other stable coin is actually going to pass that test either. Not MIM, not DAI, or anything like that.
I agree. And I know there are some other up and coming ones. I'll ask you about at the end of the video. I'm sure you heard of Vader and whatnot.
Yeah,
That's
I've
kind of
seen that.
that one's an up and coming one. But UST, I guess you can consider one, but right now it is quote unquote a bit centralized. Uh, I mean, I know it sounds kind of weird saying it's centralized, but you have Terraform Labs, which kind of runs the bridge, and then most of the node operators. It's not run by the security of Ethereum because you're backed by the people validating the transactions on Terra. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it's a give and take. But the question was Vincier, I'm probably saying his name wrong. Where is it? Oh, he's asking about the questions on the board. We were going to ask this later in the video, but what's the alpha on the board, man?
Oh, where is the board? I can't
It's
actually.
right behind you.
Oh, that's my board. Oh, yes. Okay. So I mean, this is the board I whiteboard stuff before doing core dev stuff. So obviously right now there's two things on our priority list: Frax price index, which is the FPI, and Frax swap, which is what I call a functional AMM actually. And what that means is once FPI is out and a lot of this stuff is ready to be like fully released, what we want to do is we actually want to make the protocol's core functionality done through a swap AMM interface that it controls itself. And so what that means is, if you think about it, Frax has a bunch of collateral, right? It also can change its supply, because if Frax from the open market needs to be contracted, you
Right.
can mint FXS, contract the supply of Frax. Other way around, FXS is burned with profits or bought back from the open market and given to VFXs stakers, right? All of that stuff, if you think about it, the most efficient model to do that is through an AMM and a TWAM. A TWAM is basically a time-weighted average buy and sell orders. Paradigm actually designed this system. And what I think is like really important is, if the protocol can do this stuff internally in the most efficient way, we basically can create a swap plus Frax ecosystem where we can deploy Frax swap, FPI, and Frax stablecoins to every chain, basically, right? And Frax swap allows people to trade with the protocol's own collateral.
Right.
Frax swap also allows people to trade Frax FXS pairs. Right now, we use Sushi and like Uniswap for that stuff, but there's no reason why the protocol can't do those internal, system functionality, things inside of itself. So that's kind of what Frax swap is. It's basically redoing the entire protocol so that it is a AMM with unique features, with concentrated liquidity, with TWAMs, normal, full range, swap style pairs and everything. And then we deploy collateral and FPI, TWAMs, and the balance sheet to this AMM, and we can deploy this to various other chains. Now, I haven't actually talked in depth about that, so this is like one of the kind of first times that you guys got me with the board.
Yeah, this sounds really interesting. I want to get to Justin's question after this, but what's really interesting, what you just said, I noticed you guys are using tokamak as well. Is this going, because I'm sure you've seen it, the liquidity, I guess you can say, is broken across certain chains. Like on Polygon, it's the liquidity is not as deep as on Ethereum. I mean, that's really obvious, and same thing on Phantom. Is this going to be like I guess you can explain it like all the liquidity is going to be directly on FraxSwap, and whether you're on Phantom, on Polygon, you're going to be able to go to FraxSwap and make a swap? Or
yeah, so yes, the answer to this is yes, with a few additional details. One is, the reason I call FraxSwap a functional AMM, which is something that we came up with, is that it's basically first and foremost used to allow users to trade with the protocol's collateral and protocol controlled assets. Right. So when we, for example, deploy FraxSwap to Phantom, right, like people will be able to trade some Frax against that USDC. Like there is some, right? Like we said, there's other collateral types that people will be able to trade against. There's Frax FXS, because the protocol always can load liquidity there. And then also other stuff, right? We can slowly acquire FTM and create Frax FTM pairs that the protocol controls. The other thing is we're not going to be competitive with other AMMs. So like we have very good relationship with Spirit Swap and all of these other things. The reason we call Frax Swap a functional AMM is that even though people can come and add liquidity, right? Like it's a full AMM. Like where you can add liquidity, you can remove it, you can trade, and it's fully permissionless, decentralized, and everything there. We're not going to come out and market this as no, like don't go over there, put it in Frax Swap and stuff. Frax Swap is mainly meant as a system for the protocol to essentially allow users to benefit from its own liquidity, like trade against its own thing. People can still add liquidity to pairs if they want, the fees and things like that. In fact, one of the ways that I kind of like to talk about Frax Swap is, for example, imagine a curve stable swap like pool, right? And imagine the Frax half always being loaded to balance this pool, so that it's always perfectly 1-to-1.
Right.
Is the curve pool a better minting and redeeming function for an algo stablecoin protocol, or is it a better DEX? And you could argue either way. Well, it's a better DEX because like look at curve. But I would actually like to flip kind of the mindset around in designing some of these systems, in the sense that why isn't it also a really good minting and redeem function for an algo stablecoin? Right. And so like if the protocol holds the stablecoin collateral in there, why can't people come and mint and redeem and trade at will, and put some of that collateral to work, right? In essentially a AMM style swap, right? And so we've tried to reevaluate how to bring as much capital efficiency with like idle collateral and just things like that, as well as being able to just deploy Frax Swap out everywhere, right? And so FPI's TWAM stuff will work mainly on Frax Swap, right? So there will be like FPI Frax pairs, FPI ETH, and things like that. And as the supply of FPI expands, right, it'll be minted into the FPI pairs, and then the balance sheet will increase. It's a little bit different, but similar to how Ohm mints Ohm for bonds. I sometimes just compare it because not that they're in any way similar in code base. It's a totally separate idea. But since everyone's familiar with like Olympus DAO style
Yeah.
kind of forks and things like that, it kind of helps them understand, okay, so there's this token FPI, and it's going to stay at a certain price range similar to CPI. And then its balance sheet of assets on these pairs in this AMM is going to expand or contract based on the actual price of the FPI stablecoin. So that's kind of how I like to say it.
Interesting. So you probably see Justin's super chat right
Yes.
there. He's asking about FPI. Let's go and answer his question, because I know a lot of people are waiting. For those that know about FPI, we'll explain FPI after Sam answers this question, but I think we should go ahead and answer this one because it's pretty spicy right there. How do you think FPI will flip Frax's, or do you think it'll flip Frax's market cap?
Yeah, so like answer is yes, but not as quickly as people think. I think so. So yes, but I actually don't know if it will like this year or next year, right? And so the whole reason we're obviously building the Frax price index is we think and we hope that it is the next evolution of decentralized stablecoins. Otherwise, we'd just be working on Frax, the dollar peg stablecoin, right? So we didn't believe that it would dramatically change the stablecoin metagame, so to speak, right? We'd be doing it. And so a little bit of history on the Frax price index. The idea is that, again, just like how we started thinking of like Frax in 2019, why is there not like a hybrid type of stablecoin? We thought of a hybrid stablecoin pegged to the dollar, right? Everything needed dollar pegged stablecoins. Our view is that in order for crypto to really be global and entirely independent, like fully decentralized, right? The peg also should be decentralized. When people
Right.
forget they talk about decentralized collateral, right? And they like decentralized no blacklists or whatever. What about decentralized pegs, right? You're still, if you're pegged to the dollar, you're still
Yeah.
pegged to literally.
You're kowtowing to the government still.
Exactly. And so the Frax price index, the idea behind this is that the dollar is loosely tracking the consumer price index, which is a basket of consumer items, right? And the theory behind that is, if the national currency is able to stay in line with essential consumer items like food, cars, electronics, the rent, right, like real estate rent, then people can have a fairly stable standard of living if they have cash, right? Because it's supposed to follow the most important consumer items. A lot of people right now, there's talk of, well, it's inflating against the CPI basket of items, so the government's not doing a good job. The idea with the Frax price index is it's the first stable coin to actually track this consumer basket of items. And obviously the goal with the decentralized peg is eventually, soon after launch, people will be able to, through governance, adjust what items or weights are on this consumer price index. It will just use the normal CPI at launch, like the one that the dollar tries to look at, but that's obviously not the long-term goal. Governance with VFXs holders and protocol governance and the community is supposed to eventually just take over the actual entire peg itself. So one of the cool things about that is, people that watch the Fed's monthly CPI report, there's like this big press release every month with Jerome Powell and stuff. It's like, well, the inflation rate is this, the dollar did this. I think there will be cool FPI online on Twitter and Telegram and stuff.
Awesome.
FPI monthly reports, because it has to update with the CPI Oracle as well, right? So I think it'll be the first stable coin of its kind to actually have that kind of decentralized community talking about what their definition of inflation is.
That's true. So TLDR, you've heard it now, guys. We're gonna have a coin staked to the cost of your burger. Just kidding, not just the burger. But Ziki is asking, what's the future of Frax's potential adaptations to, like, for example, compared to Terra, DAO's governance? What do you see like potentially for that?
Yeah, so I like Terra. I think Doe is a genius, and I like what they're building. I think what's interesting here is, like, I think there's certain like clear design, like correct design decisions in stablecoins that end up just showing themselves naturally throughout like time, right? It's almost like economic natural selection, right? And so, for example, I think we really hit a really winning combo of fractional algorithmic, and there's collateral, and then there's algorithmic, right? And I think that it's really interesting that Terra is looking at on-chain collateral, right? Like kind of building a backing for UST, in addition to its already cool and fully algorithmic mechanism. I think we have like this meme, but it's in jest. It's in fun terms. It's called like all roads lead to Frax, which is like
I've heard that. I've heard
all
it.
the designs will like in some way look like Frax. It doesn't mean they're forks or anything. And we love every project, but the cool thing is like the designs will look like the winning model, right? And I think that a lot of stablecoins will go towards that direction. In fact, one of the things I always thought was interesting that it kind of flew under the radar is like Maker released their DAI direct minting module into Aave, which is a lending market. And that's actually just exactly, basically verbatim, our lending AMO, which means, algorithmically expanding and contracting the Frax supply in lending markets, including Aave. We actually had that like months and months before they released it. And so what's cool about that is like, I just think everyone will like see the right stuff that we're doing and be like, okay, we gotta do this. This is obviously the right way to actually build a decentralized stablecoin. So I think there will be a lot of similar stuff that people do, it's actually great because it means that we're on the right track. It means they're on the right track, and if we all work together, everyone's pegs are stronger with deep liquidity against each other's
Right.
stablecoins.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So you kind of explained how FPI, what it's going to be, basically backed on the CPI, like a basket of assets. How will it find its price? Like, what assets do you peg it off? Like the price of gas, the price of a burger? Like, what will it be? And does it have the same mechanics as Frax? Do you use FPI to mint, or I'm sorry, do you use FXS to mint FPI?
Yeah, so there's two parts to that question. One is, I guess we could go through an example. So like, first, to keep the V1 implementation fairly simple, we will just use the normal U.S. government CPI oracle for this. And a lot of people I see, like Topher D here, he says CPI is controversial, though. Yes, exactly. The whole point is that a lot of people don't agree on what
So's the dollar, by the way, Topher.
yeah, yeah. And so like the idea is like, we obviously want to not just follow the CPI passively. So immediately after the release of like the minimum viable kind of like full protocols V1, we want to be able to have governance for like what is in the CPI. So for example, let's go through an example of like, let's say the consumer price index is super simple. It's just composed of two types of food. It's composed of beef and chicken. Okay. And so let's say that, and they're 50-50 evenly split. So the entire weight is 50% beef and 50% chicken. Let's say that beef is $10 a pound, just as an example, and chicken is $5 a pound, right? And so right now, what happens is the dollar basically tracks this, right? If next month, for example, beef becomes $20 a pound rather than $10 a pound, right? That means half of the basket got twice as expensive, right? The last month it was $10 a pound. Now the same thing, beef is $20 a pound, right? Because the government goes out and actually does surveys to see what happened, right? And if the price goes more expensive in this example, then beef is $20 a pound now, right? So half of the basket became twice as expensive. The dollar actually has to increase in value, technically, right, to keep up with the increase in beef price. And so the way that the dollar has to increase in value is that the government has to retract the supply of dollars, right? Because you increase the value of something by lowering its supply, right? And so that's kind of exactly how the CPI works.
Okay. Okay, so that kind of explains the price. What would you say the mechanics for minting the FPI? Like, is that going?
So right. So I actually saw something on Twitter about like saying it'll burn FXS directly on minting. It's kind of correct. It's kind of not. So there won't be like a burn FXS to mint FPI. FPI will be expanding and contracting supply through TWAMs, but the thing is, there's no other governance token other than FXS. So like we're not like launching a totally new protocol. I'm actually very one governance token, one thing, kind of like, I kind of like to say like Vitalik, actually. Like if you think about it, Vitalik is such a prolific person in the space. He's only had one project, is ETH, right? He could keep launching, like, here's an L2 token, here's this, and here's that governance token, here's this. But he's just very long-term oriented, like, ETH to the top, right? ETH number one. And so like, I actually have the same mindset in terms of FXS, right? So there's no other governance token. There's no like, you can burn this other token or whatever. Now the mechanics of how FXS accrues value for FPI is slightly different. It's not like the exact same thing. You can mint FPI by burning FXS on the actual mint function. It's through the FXS 1559 mechanism, where it's like, if there's excess value that the treasury is growing against above CPI, right? So if there's more value in the FPI balance sheet that is needed, right? Two things can happen. One is the protocol can mint more FPI against it, right? Like just more money backed by like CPI growing value.
Right.
The other thing is it can actually send it to yield for VFXs stakers, right? So like that
Right.
yield is essentially profit of the FPI part of the protocol. So FXS does indeed accrue value in a very formal way. It's not the exact minting, redeeming thing. I saw that in a tweet. I think I retweeted the thread anyway because there was way more awesome information than like slightly speculative. But it was just to be clear, there's only like FXS. I'm like very in terms of like crypto design. I'm very like in the same mindset as Vitalik, is like one token to kind of rule them all. But it's a little bit different. There's no burning of FXS to mint FPI.
So based on what you were saying, to my understanding, what it sounds like is it's similar to Ampleforth. I don't know if you are going to be rebasing every 24 hours with it.
No, it's
No?
definitely
Okay.
not the same as Ampleforth, because there's two things. One is I don't think Ampleforth, as far as I know, has any collateral, and like they don't
Right,
actually.
right. That's a good point.
And yeah, and so it's only similar in the sense that the supply is changing, right?
Okay. Okay.
But there's no similar. It's not a rebasing token. In fact, it only changes its supply through liquidity pairs on like FraxSwap, FPI pairs. And originally we thought of doing it kind of like Ohm, where it does rebase and stuff, but I'm personally not like a really big fan of the rebase mechanism just from a dev perspective, because
Yeah.
it actually breaks a lot of bridges and compatibility because of the way that the balance of and the actual supply is like checked in terms of code. But it is similar in the sense that supply does change, but it is not rebasing. It's not like Ampleforth in other ways.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And Vince here had a question about Frax Finance right here. It says, how will it, well, I mean, he's kind of talking about Vodium. So similar to like bribes. Are you going to have like more bribes on Vodium? I know it was with Tokamak. I remember seeing Tokamak
Yes.
had it, like if you did the Vodamac bribe with your toke tokens, you got some Frax stuff. But are you guys going to be doing that directly?
Yeah, so the direct answer is like how are we able to make other protocols seem small? I mean, Frax is just huge, but more specifically, we actually were Convex's like first partner in like I think May-ish, give or take. We started accumulating CVX tokens when it was like $2 through a Convex AMO, which is what mints and contracts supply into Curve and stakes the LPs into Convex. And that's also why we have such a good relationship with Convex. And the first other governance token they branched out of after CRV is FXS. So the CVX FXS stuff has been a really exciting partnership. So we have, I think, the most or one of the most now. So many protocols are accumulating CVX that we have like over 1 million CVX tokens. I think there's one or two other protocols that also have over 1 million. I think like Wonderland. I think I forget, but there's a lot of them that are coming. But we just have so much deep accumulation of CVX that we're able to kind of like direct bribes and incentives and things like that far and wide. And so, for example, when we bribe like $7 million compared to everyone else, we also get part of that back from the voting that we do. Or if we vote for another pool, actually, we'll get their bribe, which we could then sell to recoup the 7 million of bribes in FXS. So like we have a very, very, very large like influence on the whole Convex ecosystem, and we actually want to use it for helping everyone. So actually, in fact, one of the things we want to say is like, if you're like a project that wants to do a curve pool with Frax, whether when it's their volatile pools are open for everyone, or if you're like a stablecoin project, and you create a factory pool with like Frax and your stablecoin, and reach out to us, tell us like we want to build deep liquidity against like a Frax pool together, we will actually take care of you, right? We will help you grow. We're all about cooperation, not competition. We want to just actually help create value. So we'll channel some of our CVX tokens there. We'll help out to grow that stuff. So we're like very, very collaborative. So we have a large amount of say in that ecosystem. So if you're a project and you want to work with us, just reach out, you know.
Yeah, no, you can hit Sam up. We'll get his Twitter at the end, but you can also find him on Telegram as well. So he's pretty busy on there. He's always in the chat too, which I really don't see that from really any founders. They're never in the chat, so that kind of says a lot about you, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, it's kind of weird that it's like such a surprising thing, because like all I'm just doing every day is like just working on like code, product and stuff. So I might as well just have the Telegram and like Twitter tabs on the side, right? Like in case someone like says something important to respond to, or like, you know, just to see how everything's going. So it's actually surprising to me that it's not like more common, because I actually like to have like a really direct connection with the community, right? Like the community that we've built is an asset. It's awesome. There's a lot of smart people and really motivated, you know, people. Call them fractionalists, which is basically which actually means like Frax will take over, but since Frax is so collaborative and cooperative, it's actually kind of funny.
Everything will be Frax.
Yeah, but also the cool thing is like Fraximalist is kind of being a maximalist about collaboration and other projects, like helping other projects as well. So it's kind of like, it's a funny term, but yeah, like I'm always on there. And yeah, if you guys need anything, please feel free to reach out.
I love it. I love it. So we're talking about FBI. There's a lot of rumors. Spill, dude. Give us some alpha on this airdrop.
Yeah. So okay. So first of all, we've been working really hard. It's been, you know, a few weeks later than intended, but I think it's going to be really, really good. I think everyone will really like it, especially with all the stuff we have coming out with Convex. As you guys can see, we're, you know, pumping out stuff on the daily. So here's the actual full alpha here. The three places for the airdrop are going to be VFXs, Frax FXS LP, the Uniswap pool that's lockable, and also tokamak. Their weights will be slightly different. So for tokamak, since the FXS is unlocked and anyone can sell, the weight on that will be less than the weight of VFXS and Frax FXS LP, and that just makes sense because the time factor is basically zero on token, right. But you will get FPI, so like you don't have to actually think about, you know, moving it out or things like that. And the other you know, clarification there is that obviously means VFXS gets the airdrop. So if you stake it in Convex for CVX FXS, they've made it clear that Convex will distribute out the FPI airdrop to people that have given them FXS for CVX FXS. So essentially, basically the four places in effect are VFXS, Frax FXS LP, tokamak, and Convex. So that's the full list.
Cool. So is there any information yet on like the distributions? Is it like 1-to-1 or like
that is what we're gonna do is make that public and list in the docs, so that people can just fully like reference that, and I'll do a Twitter thread as well. I think right now, exactly like today, Jason and I are actually working on finalizing the airdrop script and mechanism. Once that is finalized, so we're ready to go, then we will actually give the numbers publicly so that we don't have to change anything. Like, you know what I mean? Because no one wants to, you know, see something and then be like, okay, well, actually just kidding. And then there's like confusion of was it the first one and then the next one. Yeah.
That makes sense. And Zeke was kind of asking, what if I stake on Convex Finance? So I'm assuming he is talking about like the, you will still get the drop. It's the same thing as staking.
Actually, to be clear, Convex gets you the most because Convex stakes
it locks it up
for 4 years, and the airdrop is based on the locked balances, right? So like if you take one FXS and you stake it for 4 years, you get 4 VFXs as your balance, give or take, right? And so you actually get 4x the weight, right? And so that's what Convex does for you if you stake with Convex. So in fact, to maximize your airdrop and your liquidity, you should just give it to Convex, because then after the airdrop, if you really want to, you can sell the CVX FXS in the Convex curve pool. There's probably going to be massively high yield in that. Like I'm probably going to be, you know, yielding in that as well. It's probably going to be a pretty high CVX FXS curve pool. It depends on how much CVX is allocated to it. We're obviously going to put up a governance proposal for FXS rewards for that. And I think it'll maybe be like high 2 figures, probably in the 3 figures of yield with obviously exposure to FXS price appreciation. So that's going to be a really juicy one. So Convex is definitely,
dual rewards. Okay,
hopefully, right? That we're ready on that. Obviously, Convex has to vote for that on their own governance side, so I can't, you know, speak for them directly, but I would not be surprised if there were 2 rewards indeed.
Good stuff. I like it. So I know we kind of talked about the bribes, but now with the FPI coming out, it seems like you've probably, well, I know you've seen it. Butterfly is coming after you, as in like accumulating as much FXS as possible. You even have other protocols that are just accumulating as much Frax as possible. That's basically pulled off the market. What are your thoughts on like possible Convex and tokamak bribes? Because I see you guys have some reactors on tokamak as well.
Yeah, definitely. So we're actively interested in tokamak bribes as well. So, you know, when that stuff gets going, I think it's a little bit quiet right now between the kind of like liquidity deployment times and other stuff. But yeah, we're definitely going to be pretty big in the tokamak bribe space as well. So watch for that. We have a bunch of toka on the protocol balance sheet. And the redacted bonds, yeah, I'm pretty sure, right, that the redacted bonds will be eligible for the airdrop, because again, I don't want to talk for other protocols, but the way that I understood the redacted bonds is when they accumulate FXS, they will, you know, stake some of it as VFXs. They've already passed the whitelist proposal to be, you know, able to stake from protocol perspective, as well as stake the other half or some amount of it in Convex, right? So both of those actions of redacted will entitle them to FPI airdrops. So then how they'll distribute it to people, or if they'll keep it themselves or something as a protocol or DAO, I don't know. Obviously, I can't, you know, comment on that, but it sounds to me like they're going to get a pretty beefy airdrop of FPI.
Okay. That sounds. Oh, we got a question as well. It sounds pretty interesting. Either that or they're just taking your FPI, but I don't know. I don't think that would go over so well. So I'm sure.
No, I think they'll obviously the community gets to decide what to do with the airdrop, right? And so that's why I can't say personally, right? Like, because I don't know what the community will, but I can answer that it sounds like they will get a fat airdrop by the.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
Let's see.
Yeah, he was. It's mate. Sorry, you can't. Your VEFXS is locked.
Yeah, so let me actually give a good let me give a good answer. So I have a bunch of my FXS locked for 4 years as well. So there's two things here, right? One is CVX FXS is like a tokenized version of VFXs. So like you get optionality to sell it if you want. You don't get the farming boosts, right? Because Convex takes that. You also don't get the future bribe power, right? Because if you have VFXs, you can sell that when there's an FXS bribe system, right? So they are different, right? You will get probably like consistent passive revenue liquid, right? When there's a bribe system, the same way that there is on Vodium or VECRV, right? We're also working on, and this is like a month or two out at least, but we're also working on a system to see if we can allow people to borrow against their VFXs. That's a little bit tricky because, as Frax Master says, the token's not liquid, so we have to design a very interesting system to liquidate the actual underlying FXs if possible. But the short answer is, I don't think you're going to be disappointed in any way. I have a bunch of my FXS staked for 4 years. There's going to be passive ways to earn bribes from VFXS. Obviously, it's just a matter of who's going to build it, if it's the team or a natural community bribe system there. And so that's going to be something that CVX FXS doesn't entitle you to, right? Because that's what Convex is using their VFXS for. And the other thing is, I think we're going to have some really cool features for this stuff going forward.
Interesting. So yeah, there's goods and bads of both. Well, I wouldn't say bads, but
they're just different.
Pros and cons. Yeah, pros and cons of both. So with like upcoming news announcements and what's going on with Frax, I mean, we got the FPI airdrop, we got possible Frax wars coming upon us, and there's just going to be a price crunch in my opinion, but most of it's on Ethereum. Are we going to have multi-chain staking, or maybe like I guess you can consider like Olympus DAO, where they use cross-chain like Geom and whatnot? And will there also be other stablecoins besides just FPI and Frax, or is it just going to be FPI and Frax? Like, I mean, as in like a euro.
Okay, yeah. So this is a really good question. So I think it has two parts. One is we're going to be natively on a lot of chains, including with like Frax Swap. We already kind of have native Frax minting and redeeming in some places. Like you'll see Frax is in Scream on Phantom, the lending market. There's like native Frax stablecoins. If you notice, actually, native Frax stablecoins, the logos are the colors of the chain that they're like minted on. So we actually did that on purpose. Like if you look at Phantom Frax, it's blue. The Polygon Frax is purple. With Frax Swap, there's going to be trading liquidity that's also native, that's protocol controlled. So like people are be able to trade against it, redeem it, do a whole lot of stuff. So be on the lookout for that, because we're going to be more and more native to many chains than we already are.
Yeah, I mean, I know Ethereum, that's the most secure network. It's got the most liquidity and the most money on it, but still a lot of the other degens like to play in the party.
Yeah, no, I mean, we know that the gas fees, we're looking at putting a lot of stuff like staking VFXs and everything else on multi-chain. I see John Vansa in this. The answer to your question, by the way, my man, is conventional. I do deadlift conventional, not sumo.
I actually like the sumo. Sumo works.
I just can't do sumo because I don't think I'm like flexible enough to get that kind of leverage. But I do like mid fours for reps and like 500. I was actually trying to reach 600 max out recently, but haven't really went for it yet. Maybe in the next few weeks.
Dude, I'm 6'5". I got long and janky legs, and it's just like I got to.
Well, sumo could be good for you because, like, I guess that makes sense, right? Because you don't have to lift it up as yeah.
Yeah, that's my back. It's weak sauce, right? All right, so I got a couple community questions. The first one, well, actually, we kind of mentioned this one, was cross-chain staking. That's obviously coming soon. CVFXs staking and liquidity. People rumor it's when the airdrop comes out, but then some are like, wait, when's the airdrop? And then it's like, oh, it's when it comes out. And then it's like, so what are some like time for? I know you can easily just say, hey, it's coming, it's coming. The devs are working, type of thing.
The devs are doing something.
Yeah, the devs are doing something, but everyone's always just like, when?
Well, yeah, so we want to make sure to like do this right because we can only do it one time, right? Like the last thing we want to do is say something and like everyone internalizes it and then we're like, oh shit, sorry, actually like that was not it's actually like this. That would be the worst thing. We'd rather like delay it to the exact perfect time rather than rush it. But we're actually very, very close. So like
Okay.
we're very close for January. So like we're basically gonna be able to 100% airdrop it this month is basically the answer.
Okay. And then Zeke asked earlier in the stream, where can Frax see improvements, and tell us something we don't know or should know about Frax?
That's a really good question. So one thing that I think is important for people to realize is like how large our like vision and like total addressable kind of like market cap for FXS, but also for like FPI and Frax is as like an entire ecosystem. Like it might be a little bit subtle to kind of piece together, but like we started this conversation with like, hey, how's Frax work as a stable coin? But if you think about where the conversation headed across this 1 hour, it's kind of a conversation of like an all-encompassing ecosystem of pretty much everything. If we can get this right, the next generation stablecoin with a decentralized peg, protocol-owned liquidity that you can trade against the protocol with all of its assets, so that on all the chains that you hold Frax, you can immediately trade against it and against the protocol itself. So Frax and FPI are highly, highly valuable in terms of their utility and liquidity, right? Next thing, this is 2 to 3 at least months out. So I didn't even bring this up, but the next step after total liquidity, stable coins, cross-chain is internal lending system, right? And so everyone talks about MIM and Maker and stuff, but one of the important things is being able to essentially lend out Frax and FPI, not just in AMO protocols, but also within your own ecosystem with your own lending markets that you're able to create, right? And the main point here is like our goal is to capture the full stack of value in the end game. So like a lot of people think, for example, Luna and Terra is like a full ecosystem. They're their own chain. They have their own AMM and all this stuff, which they do, and rightfully so. They're crushing it, right? Luna, I think, is like number 9 CMC. If you think about how this conversation's gone right now today, you'll notice some of the similarities there, right? You'll notice that our kind of like roadmap and like kind of master plan will converge on like a similar looking way. So that's one of the main things to highlight.
Okay. All right, and another community question is going to be, when is the snapshot for FPI? Will this be announced before it happens, or
yes,
is it
always,
just okay?
Always. Well, it'll be announced at least 1 week, and so we made that announcement that it'll be at least a week. Obviously, it's a little bit later than we originally wanted, but we're not going to just do it anytime, because again, these things, you want to make sure you do them right if you're doing them once, because you only get to do them once, right? And so if we didn't announce it at least a few days ahead of time, what's going to happen, right? People will be like, oh, there was a lot of insider info. People knew to like buy all the dip, and then they were like, okay, we took the snapshot, and then they just like, everyone that knew what was going on got a lot. So we always want to make sure like when we actually are ready to do it, it'll be the most fair launch airdrop, the most transparent, and also there will be at least a week from the time of snapshot to when we announce it. So 100%, it'll be the most fair launch airdrop basically ever.
Okay. Okay. And I'm assuming it's going to be Q1.
Yeah. That is for sure, for sure.
Okay. So for anyone watching, so Q1 about when the airdrop, well, the airdrop will happen for sure. That's also when you can look for the VFXs and the for staking that, as well as the liquidity, so you can swap between that. Just for anyone watching, because remember, it's when the airdrop happens. Sam, is there anything else we should know about Frax and the protocol? I know we're taking up a lot of your time, and it's extremely valuable, and we really appreciate taking the time coming on. So.
No, yeah, of course, it was awesome. Great way to start the new year. So,
Happy New Year! I forgot to say that.
yeah, happy New Year to you guys and everyone watching. May 2022 be the year of Frax and FPI and all the good crypto gains that everyone's hopefully gonna get this year in the bull market. So I guess the last thing to kind of end things with is we're really available. So the only thing to say is like please join Telegram. Follow us on Twitter, and you can put the links in your community and video. Super available. So please reach out, mention, tag, and anything as soon as I can reply. And other people in the community, they're very available. So thanks a lot, and it was really fun.
All right, sweet. No, hey, appreciate it. And last thing from Mandate, he's asking, what is your positioning between Lunar and Spirit for FXS right now? You don't need liquid drivers since you're already on Convex, right? If you don't know what Spirit Swap is, it's a AMM that's on Phantom.
Yeah, Spirit Swap. We have a really good relationship with those guys.
Okay.
Are awesome. I mean, I don't really do a lot of yield farming and stuff on like Phantom right now. So I think that's a question for other people in the community that do. But Liquid Driver is cool too. So I know those guys.
Dr. Liquid, you know?
Yeah, so it's a cool protocol as well. So I mean, I don't know. That's a good question though. Maybe they can ask it in the Telegram.
Good stuff. And lastly, I know I saw this one above, and then we'll let you run. Is Vader protocol?
Yeah, Vader is. I was actually going to check them out this weekend. I've heard a lot. I've skimmed it. I want to try to use it and see. But if anyone knows the Vader team and they want to do something together with Frax, feel free to message us in the Telegram group. Like I said, we love everyone. We always want to collaborate and create value. Than compete. But yeah, so I'm gonna check them out this weekend actually. Like I'm gonna get some Vader, use it and stuff. But if anyone knows the team, tell them to reach out to us.
Yeah, they're pretty interesting. I would be happy to have them on the channel. We can even do like a collab if you want. But Vader, just TLDR on it, is it has mechanics like Thorchain, mechanics like Luna, as well as mechanics like Ohm. So like you can look at it like whenever someone wants to add liquidity to Vader, they're going to have to lock it up like a bond. So basically Vader is going to own the liquidity, and all of the tokens are paired with USDV, which is the stablecoin. And in order to make that stablecoin, this is where Luna comes into play. You have to burn Vader. So that's where you kind of get that mechanic. And then it also has another mechanic of Thorchain to where the liquidity pools are smart, to where if there's low liquidity in there, the swap fees are higher. And if there's high liquidity in there, the swap fees are lower. So that way it compensates for impermanent loss. So that's kind of a quick TLDR on it.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm gonna try using it and getting my head around it.
Sweet, man. Sam, appreciate you jumping on the channel. We love hearing from you, man. Love seeing what you're doing. And I appreciate you taking the time from rebuilding that digital infrastructure, man. We need you to keep doing what you're doing. As always.
Thanks, Drake. Take care, guys.
As always, we do close with a wisdom one-liner. There's just one of the things I just always do on the channel. We're in Proverbs chapter 21, verses 22. So here it goes. One who is wise can go up against the city of mighty and pull down the stronghold in which they trust. Keep doing what you're doing, Sam. I think you can take down the gov.
Thanks, brother. Take care.
See you guys.